Now, the problem I have with poor people is they don't have what is called financial literacy. They are illiterate when it comes to money, and that is the biggest problem of the poor masses. That is the biggest problem of poor people. Anytime you see a poor person, one thing you have to learn is that that person is poor, not only financially, but is poor in terms of financial literacy. Now, it's only a poor person that will engage in certain things that has to do with money, and you'll be like, doesn't this person have common sense? See, it's only a poor person who will borrow to marry a wife. Hearing that alone, you think, doesn't this guy have brain? It's only a poor person that will borrow money to go to a club and impress people. It doesn't make financial sense to anybody. Why the hell should you borrow money to do nonsense? It just doesn't make sense. Now, on this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 borrowing rules of the rich. Now, rich people, they are very frugal. They might spend money, but what they are spending is very little compared to how much frugality they put into money. Poor people can freely spend their money without thinking twice. But before a rich man will spend anything, he must have thought it over. So that's basically the difference between the rich and the poor. Financial literacy. Now, what are the 5 borrowing rules of the rich? Number 1 is that the rich don't borrow to consume. They use debts. They use borrowing to grow wealth. It's only in Nigeria you see a poor person going to borrow to fund a wedding, to fund a ceremony, to fund nonsense, or to consume. And he will still have to pay back that money with interest, making him poorer. But a rich person believes that money should not be wasted. Talk less of money you borrowed from somebody. It should not be wasted. Rather, you should use that money you borrowed from somewhere or from somebody to make more money. And once that money grows, you take back the money and give to the person and keep your profit in your pockets, and you have made your money. But that's the opposite of what poor people do, which is very, very bad. Now, the second borrowing rules of the rich is the rich don't borrow more than they need at that time. Now, some poor people, they will be like, oh, okay, I need to borrow 20,000 naira. But since this guy is willing to give me 50k, let me take 50,000 naira. They will take more than they are meant to borrow. And once it's time to pay, they will start having problems to pay back, which is very, very bad. Now, if you are guilty of all these things, stop it. It cannot help you financially. It will keep you poor financially. So it's something you should avoid by all means. Now, the third borrowing rule of the rich is they don't borrow without payback plans. Poor people will go and borrow money simply because they have the leverage or they can borrow. They will go and borrow money, but if you ask them, how do you plan on paying back this money to me? They'll be like, until then, they have no plan. All they know is that they are borrowing at that particular moment without plans of paying back, which is very, very bad, which is very, very financially foolish, uncalculating, and just disastrous. Because who borrows without having a plan of paying back? Now, the fourth borrowing rule of the rich is that the rich don't borrow to marry or for burials. But that poor person in your street, that poor man in your village, will go and borrow money to have an expensive wedding. That guy who is financially suffering from financial illiteracy will go and borrow money to have a huge wedding, to have a huge burial for his or her dad or for his parents or her parents, just to impress some people. After the burial, after the huge wedding, he will not have to struggle, collect insults, become frustrated financially, emotionally, and psychologically, all in the process of trying to pay back the loan he took to impress people who don't even care. If you borrow to impress people, those people don't care. After impressing them, you still have to pay back that loan you took, and that is when you know that it's very, very frustrating to borrow to impress people who don't care. Never you borrow to impress people. For me, it doesn't make sense. Why the hell should someone borrow to impress people? People don't care. People might praise you at that moment that you are impressing them, but after that, they have forgotten you unless you impress them again tomorrow. So how long do you want to keep impressing people? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, the next borrowing rule of the rich is that the rich don't borrow to invest in other people's business, which they are not sure of, except it is their own or something they are sure of. But a situation whereby you go to somewhere and borrow money to invest in another person's business that you're not even sure of how profitable it will be, that is you getting yourself in something you cannot come out easily. I've seen people who borrow money to give to forex traders to trade and make for them profits, so they will take the profits and pay their lenders back and keep some. But in some cases, in fact, not even in some cases, in most cases, the money disappears. So why the hell should you borrow money from somebody, give them assurance that they're going to pay back, and then you take that money and invest somewhere else, and that money disappears? A business which is not your own and which you are not sure of, you should never borrow to invest there. It's a very disastrous, frustrating, and depressing financial mistake most people make. Avoid borrowing to invest in other people's business unless you are certainly and 100% sure of the profitability and the viability of that business. So that's basically it on today's video. Don't be that poor man who is borrowing to consume, or who is borrowing to impress people, or who is borrowing without payback plans. Be wise, be smart, be intelligent financially, and see you guys in the next video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, necessary. Follow me on Twitter, necessary. My Twitter handle is Chukwuka Ubani, which is, you can see. And then see you guys in the next video. Peace.